What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of On the Road to Victory. I am your host, Jimmy Smith, and I'm back again. That's right. We talked a little bit earlier about some of these wild trades that were going down, but the train does not stop rolling here. We are leading up until the legal tampering period on March 14th. We're going through. We're taking a gander at all the free agents, some of the trade targets at each position from offense, defense, and tonight, little special teams. Now, I'm not doing any trade targets for you here, but we're going through. We're going to talk about the kickers, the punters, the long snappers. And I know what you're thinking, kickers, punters, long snappers. But let me tell you something right now. This guy's involved in the show, so you might want to rethink that stance. Let's go. Anyway, we also got some return specialists involved. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what the Eagles have right now at those positions. And then we're going to talk about who's available and who the Eagles could definitely keep their eye on. So let's start it off and look at the special teams department here. Jake Elliott, love him, did great last year, only had a missed kick or two there. And Rick Lovato stepped in perfectly for Doran Bose. And then you got Aaron Sipos. And Aaron Sipos, he looked great at first, and I thought, holy hell, this dude coming out of nowhere. Love to see it. He had no competition all camp. That scared the living hell out of me, but he came out, he looked good, and then he looked like complete garbage near the end. So I don't know, man. I'll be real with you. I'd probably consider bringing in some competition there. But regardless, let's take a look at all of the unrestricted and restricted guys at kicker, punter, and long snapper, and then we'll get into the return specialists. Up first, we have the free agent kickers available. Unrestricted, you've got the dude that dubbed himself the Money Badger and then just started sucking after he did that for the Chargers and the Colts. And not sure why it says Chargers there, but he last played for Indianapolis. Dustin Hopkins there was with the Chargers. You guys remember him in Washington. Bullock in Tennessee. Younghoe Koo over there in Atlanta. So you've got actually some decent guys out here. Joey Sly, Nick Folk. So I don't know. Maybe you want to bring in some competition for Jake Elliott. I'm not against it. I've got a couple of restricted guys. I'm not sure anybody would want to match Sam Ficken. I think Matt Gay, they're going to do what they can to keep him there in LA. And then you've got Chase McLaughlin. So I think he's going to stay put as well. This is not a position I would be too interested in. But in case you're watching this show, your team needs somebody, you have that list available. Now, looking at free agent punters, this is the list we're really concerned with because I would bring one of these guys in and have him compete with Aaron Sipos. So you've got some veteran guys. You've got O'Donnell there. We talked about last year. Got Brian Anger, Kevin Huber, Andy Lee playing for his 946th year. Then you've got guys like Thomas Morstead, Pilardi, Bariquez, Dustin Colquitt, and Jordan Berry. And then you have Ty Long down there restricted. So you've got some options there that you bring in and compete with Aaron Sipos. So I suppose that would be a good idea. We'll see if the Eagles do that. Now on to the long snappers. Here he is, Clark Harris, keeping it real, a real American. I don't think this is a position that you need to worry about. I really like what we got going on there with Rick Lovato, but in case you're a fan of a different team watching this, there you go. There's the list of all of the unrestricted and restricted free agents available. So there it was, ladies and gentlemen, for the special teams department, but not going to stop there. We are now going to get into the return department, which I feel is very important for the Philadelphia Eagles this season because last year, well, we sucked. Let's not kid ourselves. Don't really need to stress anymore. Jalen Reagor looked terrible back there. Finally saw a little bit of Kenny Gainwell. Looked all right. Jason Huntley looked great, but, obviously he wasn't even on the roster till the end. We all know how that goes, but the kid's got talent. Even in the running back room, he's got it, but he definitely has some talent in the return game. So you have Quez Watkins as well. That's a guy that's going to find himself some more snaps at wide receiver, but could definitely be used in the return game. I would love to see that. We need talented guys back there making plays. Not saying Jalen Reagor doesn't have the talent. He just hasn't been able to put it out there on the NFL field. So until he finds that, we need an upgrade. We've talked about Boston Scott and Greg Ward when we went through the running back and wide receiver positions. I think they could both be back, bring some veteran leadership to some of these young guys we bring in. We shall see, but this position desperately needs an upgrade from kick returner to punt returner. And I like a couple of those guys you could sprinkle in there, but I think Gainwell, Watkins will be used on the offense. And then Huntley, maybe he finds himself a roster spot and is the return man. But if not, there are definitely some free agents available. So let's get into the top 10 free agent returners available. You guys have any thoughts on this? You want to let me know who you are interested in, you see a name or you haven't seen a name that I have up here, please let me know. We're going to go through the top 10 and then I'm going to show you the list of all available. And man, did this take some damn time to do? I'm going to be real with you because I went through and I had to find like the top returners. I wanted to find guys that were actually good returners. I wanted to find the guys that were doing the best last year. And I wanted to find out if they're actually available. So I had to go through, find all the unrestricted guys. Some of them I try to remember from when we did wide receiver and running back. But of course, there's some defensive backs and we haven't gotten to the defense yet. So, Lord, it has been quite a time getting home trying to put this together. Oh, my God. So we're here past 11:30, and I appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. So let me know how you're feeling about this. Hit that like button if you would. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn that notification bell on so you know when we're going live and talking some birds. We're going all the way up until the 14th, as I mentioned, with a position each day, talking about the free agents available and who the Eagles should be interested in. It also gives you an opportunity to talk about not just Eagles, but you get to see who we have on our roster, who the free agents are in case you missed that show. So without further ado, let's get into this. Up first, I mean, we talked about this dude when we were talking about running backs. Cordero Patterson, I think he just has to be mentioned here because he's one of the greatest I've seen. And that's a kick returning. He doesn't punt return. I think he's done it one time in his career. But the guy didn't do it too much last year because he was a running back, a receiver. He did it all for Atlanta last year. And I would love to see him on the Eagles. It's not only a backup running back, but just to be used all over the field and to have that kind of kick returner, that would be pretty awesome. But there are some other guys that may be much cheaper. So we'll see what we do here, but there's some exciting names on this. So Braxton Berrios up next. We talked about him with the wide receivers, you know, a slot guy that could come in and definitely help out, but he has got ability at punt and kick returning. So that is a major plus that we talked about when talking about him, whenever the hell we were talking about the receivers. But I think that Braxton Berrios, oh, man, that would be fantastic to have a guy that is actually just your kick returner and your punt returner. Wow, could you imagine? That would feel fantastic. Up next, this is another guy that, you know, I think he goes down as one of the guys that's just a phenomenal kick returner. Not the greatest of receivers. He can do some things, but the guy is a damn good returner. You see, last year had over 1,000 yards in kick returns, 27.3 kick return yards per game. And if you notice from Berrios on, it's going to go average yards per return. That's pretty much just what I wanted to put him at on a kick return, just to give you an idea, whatever order it may be. He had a 101 yarder for a touchdown. That's pretty nice. So that's a guy, if you feel like, look, the return game is very important. If you want to just give one guy a position on the roster to do just that, I'm literally not going to be mad at that. So that's what kind of guys we're looking at here on this list. And they can provide you a little bit of depth at the wide receiver position. Need some veteran leadership. So maybe a guy that's been in the league 12 years, you bring him in, he could help out. Some familiarity there with the staff. We'll see. Up next, we all are familiar with DeAndre Carter. We know we let him walk. Now we've been watching him in Washington. Hate to see it. He's been helping in the, receiving game as well. Talked about him with the receivers. I think this kid, it would be awesome to get him back. I mean, he is phenomenal in the return game. And then look at how well he has developed as a receiver. I mean, don't tell the Jalen Hurts haters that, but players do develop and get better. Wild, I know, but they do. So DeAndre Carter, I would love to have him back. You see another guy with a 101 yarder, a touchdown. He is a home run hitter. Would love to bring him back to Philly. Up next, Isaiah McKenzie, 26 years old, still a young man. He's another one, man. Home run hitter. He can punt return and kick return. So you've got these dual return guys that is what really intrigues me. Guys that help you not only in the return game, though, but some gadget plays, things like that, Sirianni could use. So we shall see if our eyes are on any of these players. Up next, a Super Bowl winning Byron Pringle. This kid, I think, obviously a crowded room there, but he really showed out this year. So given an opportunity with the Eagles, I think he could help as a receiver and as a kick returner, but not somebody that is a punt returner as well. So not something I'm saying he can't do, but they had McCole Hardman. They have a crowded room, so hard to tell sometimes. But I think, this would be somebody I would be okay with. And we talked about him once again with the receivers. But, yeah, I like Byron Pringle and would not be against it. Up next, you have Deontay Harris, who, dude, all of these guys are all very intriguing. I mean, that's why I picked them for my top 10, over 20 yards per return. And I think, Deontay Harris on a crap team like that, you get pretty decent amount of returns there, but they've got a good defense, so they stifle some people. So it's real up and down there. But I think this kid, bring him in. He can return in both facets of the game. I would love to have Deontay Harris. Little guy, but he is fast as hell, 5'6", 170. He can help you as a receiver too. So wouldn't be against that. Up next, Jakeem Grant. Talked about him as well. Look, another little guy, 5'7", but he can help you. Oh, man, he's a kick returner and punt returner. When the Dolphins traded him away, I talked about, having a guy like that, somebody that can just at any moment break a big one off. He had a 97-yarder for a touchdown in the punt return last year. So the kid can do it all. He's 29 years old, though, 6 years experience. But I think a guy that you can bring in, once again, help you as a receiver, a punt returner, kick returner, that right in itself is a job right there. Give it to him. Gadget player that returns the ball. I would be more than okay with bringing in Jakeem Grant. Up next, you have Amir Abdullah, who did not live up to expectations, but I'll be real with you. The kid can return the ball. So he's a great kick returner, does not punt return, but hey, maybe if you're just looking at a guy to come in, compete with a Jason Huntley, maybe you bring in someone who had a pretty successful year last year in Amir Abdullah. And then last but not least, out of this 10 here, we got Ray McLeod out of Pittsburgh, 25 years old, 5'9", these little guys, but another punt returner, kick returner. He can help you with those gadget plays we talk about. So you're seeing a similarity here, something we were hoping to get out of Jalen Reagor. I think you could get it out of Kenny Gainwell if you wanted. Didn't have too much in the return game, but we talked about possibly using him there. We did a couple times. So I would like to see them have him work on that in the offseason. Maybe he's that guy, but I love Kenny Gainwell. I'm just saying, maybe you bring in another guy that's a receiver too, or running back, whatever the hell you want, that can play all over the field. I would love to see it. Now I'm going to show you the entire list, and there's a few pages of these guys. So yeah, I can't believe how many I actually ended up finding and going through. And I didn't want to leave people out because I'm trying to give you the list of all the people that are available. So in case there are some names you're interested in or someone you had no idea was even out there, I threw them on there. Now, some of these guys like Dontre Hilliard, we talked about him, and I really like that kid as a running back. I would bring him in. Not the greatest in the return game, but he can provide some return ability. So I didn't put him on this list because he's not standing up with those guys in the return game. But when it comes to running back and a mixture of having that return capability, I love it. So definitely would keep my eye on someone like him. So we've talked about this while we talked about those positions, but just want to keep you up to date with what's going on in my mind. Now you got someone like Jalen Richard there, can help you as a running back. But we kind of, once again, we have Kenny Gainwell, I think, can pretty much fill that void. Not somebody I'm too interested in. Darius Phillips, the defensive back there from Cincinnati. So you're going to be seeing all kinds of guys, wide receivers, running backs. You got a bunch of guys from Tennessee out here. Chester Rogers out there, Marcus Johnson, Keelan Cole, Corey Clement. We're all familiar with him. Ty Montgomery even is out there. You've got some guys that can return the ball. Keelan Cole, Alex Erickson didn't necessarily have the best of years in the return game, but they can do it. We talked about Peyton Barber with the running backs as well as Sony Michel. I like them as running backs. I don't think I'd be using them too much in the return game, but they have that capability. Maybe they get a chance to be brought in just because of that fact. So we shall see. But on to the next list. And this is the final of the unrestricted free agents. And then I'll show you the final restricted couple guys that are intriguing. But you've got guys like CJ Board, who did well for the Giants before his injury. You've got Tavon Austin still hanging around. Buddy Howell there in a crowded room in L.A. Brandon Bolden, we talked about with the running backs. You got Jaden Mickens down there. Philip Lindsay also talked about with the running backs. I mean, D.D. Westbrook. And then at the end, you see Dwayne Washington, who we obviously talked about with the backs. Demarcus Robinson, we talked about. Didn't get to return the ball too much there in Kansas City, but he has that capability. And then Olamide Zacchaeus in Atlanta. That's a guy that can play receiver and help you in the return game. So there's definitely a lot of guys available. And that is a position I think the Eagles need to upgrade. And then last but not least, we have the restricted guys. You have Gunnar Oslewski from New England, a guy that really came out of nowhere, a Braxton Berrios mold, real tiny, but gets the job done in the return game. He can help you all over the place, a little gadget player as well. So maybe that's somebody you put a tender on and see if New England matches, but I think New England's going to keep him. We talked about Guyton. I would really be intrigued to see what we could try to get there, but I think Chargers try to keep him. So I'm not really intrigued by any of those guys, but I want to keep you in the loop with everybody that is available. So that was it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed all of the special teams talk we did have. If you have any questions, any comments, you're watching right now, you want to let me know how you feel, please do so. You're watching this later, please let me know how you're feeling down below. Is there somebody that piqued your interest, whether it was a punter, whether it was a long snapper, maybe? Just maybe. You let me know how you're feeling about this video. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Hope you all had yourselves a great night. What a wild, wild day. It's going to continue to get wild, guys. And like I said, we're going to have a show every day leading up until the 14th when the legal tampering period begins. So we're going to get a lot of news, a lot of people signing with people. And then on the 16th at 4 o'clock, it legally begins. Free agency, baby. So let's get excited. Football. And it sucks because you get so pumped up and then it's like, oh, it's gone. But you guys know I'm always here for you. Going to be providing content throughout free agency. And then during this draft process is going to be awesome. I'm just going to let you know we have 3 first-round picks, dude. 15, 16, 19, 10 picks total. I cannot wait. The amount of money, yeah, it's been awesome. I've been talking about it all year, but I've been talking about the picks too. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun offseason, and football will be back before you know it. But if you need me before tomorrow, you know where to find me. So thank you again for taking the time. Stay safe out there. And as always, go Birds!